Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. A special warm welcome to everybody joining here as panelists in this webinar today. As you all know, the topic for today is going to be focused on technology and how tech enables companies to work in a more progressive, self-managed way. It's a hot topic. There's so many tools and options and technology that's out there trying to support organizations to work more progressively. We're not talking about small tweaks to how a company can work. We're talking radical stuff today. We're talking companies going into self-management, ditching a big part of their hierarchies to give people more freedom, more autonomy, to create a better organization that's not just more fun to work at, but also more successful in whatever it is trying to do. So we have a couple of very interesting guests with us here today. We have Catalina from PTHR, Renee from Great Place to Work, also based here in the Netherlands. Then we have Sophie from Partena, and we have Nicolas from Welser Profile here today as well, sharing how they work and how they are using technology to make that happen. And we have Christina Riesen here from Talkspirit. She's going to be talking today a bit more about their solution and how their technology actually enables companies to self-manage and work more progressively. Before doing that, I'm going to walk you through a bit of the basics. So first, very briefly talking about what Corporate Rebels is, what we do, not too lengthy because I guess most people who are joining us today on LinkedIn are aware of what we do. So I'm going to keep that very short, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the expectations for this session, and then I'm going to share with you a bit of a basic framework for self-management. For this session, we're not going to go too deep, especially not from our side, because we'll leave that up to the guests in the remainder of that session. So let me go ahead and share some slides. Here we go. All right, for today, as I mentioned, main kind of thesis for today that some of you might have also read in the blog post that are recently published on this is really very much about this. So we believe very strongly that companies still holding on to traditional hierarchies today are like running MS-DOS in a cloud computing world. Technically still works, but you're operating at a fraction of what's possible. And this is after 9.5 years of research into pioneering organization. We're still amazed by how rare they are, how few of them there are out there. But if you look at those companies that are really pioneering a new way of working with much less hierarchy than the traditional management approach, and you see the results and the outcomes of their work, if they make a transformation successfully, then it's still mind-blowing that there aren't more companies applying this. And I know a lot of companies are thinking about it or trying to implement some of these ideas. Today is going to be about what do you need to get in place to transform successfully, and how can you use technology also to support that, to make sure you upgrade from that MS-DOS system to something that actually works in today's fast-changing world. So today's webinar, very briefly, as I mentioned, a simple framework for self-management that you can borrow and start using tomorrow. We're going to keep it simple because often the topic of self-management can be overwhelming, but we want to make sure you get the basics to at least start thinking about implementing some of these ideas. Then we have 4 pioneers, the ones I just introduced you to, who've done some of the messy work that you might be about to do or that you're in the middle of, and they can share some valuable lessons of what they've come across on their journeys. And then a bit of a tech deep dive with Christina, showing how Talkspirit, their software, enables more autonomy in the workplace. And a bit of time for Q&A. So if you have any questions or comments or doubts or fears, anything like that, drop it in the comments. My colleague Paulina will forward them to me, so we'll be able to ask those. And we're going to keep it super informal. We'd love to have a conversation around this topic, and therefore we can also dive into many of the questions or concerns that you might have. Okay, that simple framework for self-management that I mentioned, let's start with that. sorry, forgot this part. We're going to talk very briefly about what Corporate Rebels is for those of you don't know us. It's going to be a 1-minute summary. So we research self-managed and pioneering companies. It was born from a personal frustration of working for very traditional corporates, where we got completely fed up, and then we said, there has to be a better way, and let's research these companies to see what that alternative approach to work actually is. And an important part of that is publishing everything we learn. So we publish all kinds of content to help companies revolutionize the way they work, from blog posts to books, to online courses, masterclasses, all that kind of stuff to support companies to transform. And then another important part, we are the #1 global network for pioneering and self-managed organizations. It's this concept that we launched a couple of years ago, and last year we added a physical component to it. So we are live now in almost 25 countries with local hubs of progressive organizations coming together to share ideas, share challenges, help each other overcome them, and really build this network of companies that want to support each other to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible at work. So, brief summary. As I mentioned, the topic of today is a bit different than just Corporate Rebels itself. We are going to talk about self-managed and less hierarchical companies. And one big misconception that people often have is that they think no hierarchy equals no structure. That's not the case, and actually quite far from it. What we're seeing in companies that apply a non-hierarchical way of working is that they actually have a lot of structure to make it work and to make it work successfully. It's just a different type of structure. So it's not top-down structure, but it's peer-to-peer structure. And it's vitally important to get that in place, especially if you want to grow a company. Smaller companies often can do without, but bigger companies definitely need this structure in place to make it work. So we would say without explicit structure, you get either chaos or a stealth or shadow hierarchy in place. It's maybe not a hierarchy on paper, but it will still happen if you don't put the right peer-to-peer structures in place. So therefore, you need a bit of a framework, right? So to guide a bit of this is not a complete framework. It's not the only thing you need to do to get self-management, right? But I just want to share a bit of the basics. What do you need to get in place? So a couple of key elements to make it work. Purpose and values. You might hear this everywhere, but especially for more progressive self-managed companies, this is vital to make it work. Because if you don't have clear direction, then it's really hard to organize a network of self-managed teams. So see this as your North Star, your GPS coordinates that you need in order to point an organization into a certain direction. Organizational design, and then mostly talking about a network of self-managed teams to replace that traditional hierarchy is important. So you break down the hierarchy, often the layers of middle management go out, the functional departments often are replaced by something else. And you can see this as the kind of Lego blocks. So these are the building blocks for your organization. It's very different than the traditional setup, but it's vitally important to get very clear on what that setup is for your specific organization. Then another key component, roles and responsibilities. It's very, very important to make it very clear to everyone in the organization who's responsible for what. And in these self-managed companies, I would dare to say this is often more explicit and more clear than it is in more traditional hierarchies, where we make a lot of assumptions ourselves. But in these companies, they make it very explicit. And you can see this still as an org chart, but a much more dynamic one than what companies that have a more traditional approach are using. Then very much or a lot of clarity around decision-making processes. So it doesn't just mean that everybody in an organization can make all the decisions they want. There's a lot of clarity around who makes what decisions, but also how decisions are made. And there's a couple of different flavors companies can choose from in terms of how they make their decisions. But clarifying this and codifying this is important to make it work, especially at scale. And you can see this kind of as the traffic rules, the guidelines for an organization to use. Similar as with traffic, a lot of people can self-manage in that. There's not somebody telling you when to go onto a roundabout, when to leave it, or when to overtake another car. That's up to you to decide. But there are ground rules in place, And you can see the decision-making process is very similar to that. Then a clear meeting cadence is kind of the heartbeat of an organization. So you still want to have meetings probably. You probably also want to have a lot less than in traditional management approaches. But in many cases, you still want to have a few of them in place and then with a very clear cadence. So a minimal amount of meetings, but very clearly when you have a meeting, what is that meeting specifically for and who is joining that meeting. Then a performance system, see it as a scoreboard. It's important for teams to self-organize, to actually see how they are performing compared to others in the organization or compared to their own past performance. So they can see if they see a dip in performance, then they have to step up their game and find solutions for it. Or if they are very successful in what they do, they can then also support other teams in an organization to get better and to improve the scores on their scoreboard. And then the final one, conflict resolution. You can see it as a safety harness. So in these organizations, also in traditional hierarchies, but especially also in more self-managed companies, conflicts will arise. And instead of going up to a manager to solve problems for you, people have to solve their own conflicts. So it's important to give people the right training, but also the right processes to resolve these conflicts themselves. So a vitally important skill that people need in these kinds of organizations. So not going much deeper into this, just want to make sure that it's clear for people what we're talking about here today. And also what is important if you want to go into this direction, or if you've already gone into this direction and are struggling a bit, what some of the aspects and elements are that we've seen in many of these companies you just need to get right in order to make it succeed. So that's what we wanted to share for now on this self-management. Most important now is talking to René, Sophie, Nicola, and Catalina to dive more into their specific cases and to learn a bit from these pioneers that are actually putting this stuff into practice. We're going to frame the conversation around two questions. What are the key insights from your organizational transformation towards self-management? And also, how is technology supporting that? So I'll stop sharing my screen and let's dive into the conversation. Since ladies go first, Catalina, would you mind kicking us off? Tell a little bit about yourself, your organization, and then mostly diving into the question, what are some of the key insights from your transformation towards self-management?
Sure. Thank you so much, Pim, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. I was nodding to a lot of the things that you said there. So I'm Catalina. I'm leading on people and performance at PTHR, and PTHR is a small but mighty consultancy, how we like to call it. It was started by Perry Timms in 2012 in the UK. So we work on the UK market. We focus on transformation, HR, processes, practices, culture, change, systems thinking, so everything around people and culture. And we help organizations redesign the way they work so that people flourish in their work. We are a proud B Corp and 4-day work week. And now seeing René here, I was thinking we should go for the great places to work as well. And we are a self-managed team. And in pursuit of our mission, better business for a better world. I've been with PTHR for the last 5 years. I've been wearing different hats from operations, innovation, now people and performance. So I've been contributing to a lot of the self-management practices that we have currently. So I wanted to share a few things that have helped us in our journey. And even before PTHR, I worked with an organization for about 5 years and helped them through their self-management journey. So this topic is really close to my heart. And I wanted to mention one of the first things that I think are really important, and you've mentioned that as well, like radical transparency and making sure that all communication is available, collaboration is open finances. So really empowering everyone and making sure that everyone has access to the same information and the same data. So I think this element is really important when you start self-management, but also when you're in the middle of it, because sometimes things can get tricky. And of course, tech is really essential for this to make sure that things are available and transparent for everyone. What's really important for us is to have the right tech. Also, we are a remote working team. So basically, our tech stack is our infrastructure, our backbone, and this is what helps us bring self-management practices to life. Another really important element from our perspective is having a mindset of experimentation and curiosity. So we always test, we adapt, we change things, we try new ideas, but we're also okay with the idea that sometimes some things won't stick. So we give up some practices, we create new ones. And I think it's important to see change as a constant and get used to it and make sure that everyone is comfortable with changing situations. And that has helped us become very resilient in previous years. And also another important aspect I would say is making sure to create a leaderful culture. So making sure that everyone has the opportunity to step into their leadership power, creating different opportunities for people to lead on projects, but also to support others who are leading on other projects. And again, here our tech stack is really essential because it mirrors our operating system. So we call that stacks, so different areas of the business. And we have different leaders on each stack, but for each stack, everyone supports depending on what they need to work on. So it's this dynamic and fluid way of organizing things that, again, as you mentioned before, it's actually very structured and very clear. So the technology that we're using is really bringing more clarity to the roles and tasks and objectives that we have.
Cool. So two of the things that come to mind most, or that stick most, is that one, the transparency and how important that is to make this stuff work. How does the technology that you're using enable that? Can you give a practical example of the power of transparency in that?
So we use different things for different reasons. So for communication, for example, we use Slack, and we have check-ins. Each one of us, when they start working, they share a check-in, they share what they're working on, and it's really important to do that as much as possible. Again, for us being a remote working team, it's really essential to know what people are working on, what challenges they have, what priorities they have, if they need help. So a lot of the times people mention if they need support for a specific project, but it's also our way of connecting with each other and making sure that we care about each other beyond work and we know what's happening in someone's life in a specific day. So to be very exact, like it's definitely Slack for communication, but we also we use different tools for resource allocation. So for people to understand how we're allocating resources to different projects, what was the progress, what are the objectives. So there are different tools that we're using and we put them all together.
Well, and then you talked about this concept of leaderful, so everybody being able to lead in their area of the business or their roles that they pick up. I know that we are also using a tool to kind of map all of the different roles in the organization. How does that work for you? Can you talk a little bit practically, also for people that maybe are not that familiar with role-based working, how that works and what some of the benefits for you personally are?
Well, to be honest, we're experimenting that right now with Talkspirit. So we've mapped all our roles and all our stacks in Talkspirit, and we're looking at how everything connects and all the objectives that we have for specific stacks. And the reason why I mentioned the leaderful cultures and organizations is because I feel like with self-management, this is one of the biggest misconceptions, that self-management means no leadership, when actually it means collective leadership. It means that people lead in different ways in different projects. So tech really helps us map that out and everyone to understand whose role is more important right now and who's leading on specific areas, and for everyone to have an overview of what we're working on and where we're at with different projects and different initiatives.
Great. Thanks a lot. We'll come back to you, Catalina, later on. Sophie,
you.
now over to you. Could you talk a little bit about Partena and your answer to what are some of the lessons and key insights from the organizational transformation?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Pim. I will start to introduce myself. So I'm Sophie de Kuiper. I'm the HR talent manager of Partena Professional. Partena Professional is an HR partner who supports all professionals by offering several services for entrepreneurs, self-employed persons, and employers.
Sophie,
yes.
Quick question, but your mic is a bit.
Sorry.
Maybe it's better to. Can you try again? Can you say something?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, no, it's still the same. Maybe use the mic from your laptop if possible. Maybe that helps to avoid it. If that doesn't work, then we can also go over to René and Nicolas first.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it better now?
No, it's the same.
Oh, I'm sorry, because my connection is okay. Is it better?
No, it feels like it's more the microphone itself or the connection.
Yeah, but I just switched from microphone, so it's...
No, then it's not. Okay, then go ahead. It's doable, but then at least we know what the reason is.
Yeah, so we are offering several services for entrepreneurs and self-employed persons and employers throughout their careers, and all companies at every stage of their development, and we're all about almost with 2,000 employees. Now, just for giving some key insights of our organizational transformation, is it okay? Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Like you said, I'd like to begin by clarifying a common misconception about self-management. When people hear the term self-management, many immediately picture chaos, independency, no rules, no leaders, no accountability, but that couldn't be further from the truth. So in reality, it's not the absence of a structure, it's the evolution of it. That's how we look at it as a Partena Professional. It's about building systems that are not rooted in control, but in trust, and structures that don't depend on micromanagement, but on transparency, clarity, and shared leadership. So those are the key ingredients for us for a successful transformation in Partena Professional. Because we believe that at the heart of our transformation lies a simple truth. When people understand their roles and when their goals have meaning, like you said, and when agreements are made collectively, they stop simply working. I know that sounds very strange, but what I mean is they begin to care. So they contribute more deeply, and most importantly, they grow. And it boosts entrepreneurship and innovation because boundaries are clear. So it helps to take your ownership. And if you know your playground, you can play in it. So those are our insights and the key ingredients for our transformation.
Thanks. And with 2,000 people, so how, what we're seeing at least is that the bigger the company, the more important the technology becomes as well. How is that for you guys, and how does that enable self-management?
Like you said, it's quite big. So this transformation didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen without the right tools. So that was really, really important. And one platform that has been instrumental in supporting our evolution is Talkspirit. So by fostering greater transparency and organizational flexibility and operational efficiency. How it helps us was more like on the transparency. It was clear documentation of roles and responsibilities, like who has to take action, who to contact, who is responsible of what, and have also more insight on your talent in the company. And it makes invisible work also more visible and helps us align more clearly with our strategic goals. And for flexibility and adaptability in a fast changing world, agility is non-negotiable. It offers us a dynamic organization that can respond quickly to the needs of the organization, but also of the market. And about the operational efficiency, by streamlining how we meet, make decisions, and stay aligned, we created a more natural rhythm. So one that's faster, clear, and human. Focus is on the problem solving and action by using diversity as a strength. Yeah.
Okay.
So tooling is key. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine at that size. Yeah. Great. Let's go over to René. Great place to work. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to share a bit more about my experience. Hi, everybody. My name is René Brouwers, and my main role is circle lead of Great Place to Work, the Netherlands, the largest circle in our organization. Great Place to Work is a global business, and around the globe, we recognize great organizations through certification programs and best workplace lists, and we help organizations become better places to work. And we are the Netherlands, so we are the Dutch office, and we do this with around 50 offices around the globe. The Dutch office is one of the offices who work for self-management. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold here. Our process has been interesting getting to self-management. So I'll give you 3 key insights. But to take you with there, think about this small company around 8 years ago. 6 to 7 persons who just got acquired by new owners and who were traditionally run by a more dominant hierarchical leader over the years previously. And the owners who acquired it had multiple companies, several companies, all with this self-management philosophy behind it. And they added this new company to their portfolio and started looking for somebody to run it. So you got this beautiful Monday morning, sunny in Amsterdam on one of the canals. I walked in for a job interview. And the first thing they said, well, we're looking for a CEO to run this new self-managed organization we just acquired. Well, that's an interesting starting point for a job interview. Well, as you can imagine now, I got the job. But not long after I started, the team actually wanted to kill the self-management stuff. They said at that point in time, it just doesn't help us. We want a leader to just make the decisions that need to be taken right now, which brings me straight away to my first lesson. I believe strongly in self-management, aligning with your story, Pim, and your other stories, but it's timely. It's not always for everybody. So we killed self-management at first, and then in the years following, we started to add new self-management practices to our organization while we were growing the business. So think about consent decision-making, think about performance management, think about transparent salaries. And that worked nicely over the course of time. But until we got to the point where we were around 15, 20 people, at that point in time, we noticed that we really needed to make a decision on how to formalize self-management. Because it was just going everywhere. So yeah, we had those practices in place. And I took a picture of your first slide to remember me on what the things we need to do, Pim. But at that point in time, we made the decision we need to formalize it. And we made the decision to move to holacracy, which is a way of working, a model, a setup that you can use to build your self-management practices around. And that really helped. I think that was a great step. Although we not fully embraced every aspect of it yet, I think there's still some steps to be taken. But it really helped to get sort of a shared language, a shared way of thinking, something amongst the team that we all understood along the way. So that was my second insight, is a model really helps to get that shared knowledge, that shared understanding of what it takes to be or to what it takes to work in this self-managing organization. I think moving along now, we're getting to 25, we're getting to 25, 30 people now. I think nowadays, our most important challenge is on the one hand, what we measure in great workplaces is trust, autonomy, and freedom, which are the great side effects of self-management, what drives engagement, what drives people to deliver more for your business. But on the other hand, you need to have responsibility, accountability, and alignment. And you got to balance those. And now I got to quote you, Pim, for your best LinkedIn post I keep on using nowadays, where you said, and I'm going to phrase it, you said, trust requires responsibility. I don't know if you remember it. It was I think it was around 6 months ago. Trust requires responsibility, freedom requires accountability, and autonomy requires alignment. And in self-management, I think our current biggest challenge is to balance those two. How do we make sure that people feel trusted, freedom, feel that they can work autonomously? And on the other hand, we need to get our results. So we need to have a responsibility, accountability, and alignment there. So I think that's where we got our third lesson. So summarize my key 3 insights. Get your timing right. It's not always for everybody. Formalize it. So a model really helps, and balance those two: trust, freedom, autonomy, and responsibility. And I think tech really helped us on the latter two. So we are a client of Talkspirit. And I think now we've really moved everything into the platform. At first, it really helped us because it's fully built around Holacracy as well. It really helped us to get the basics in there, like roles, responsibilities, meetings, decision-making, full clarity on what your organizational governance and structure looks like. And you're really flexible changing things, but based on the system, you're able to give it back straight away what it looks like. So very transparent and provide a lot of clarity. I think now we're moving towards adding things like OKRs, KPIs, projects in order to get our business results, sort of the other side as well in our platform. So it is our sort of daily go-to platform where we do everything in terms of meetings, in terms of OKRs results, those kind of stuff. And I think we'll be moving to get performance management job scorecards in there as well. So next to things like Teams or, of course, all the other Microsoft stuff, I think it's our daily governance system, both on the structure as well now on sort of the results side of business.
Well, yeah, thanks. Super clear story. And I like how you connected it also to that final topic, that third topic, about balancing the autonomy and responsibility. I think it's one of those other misconceptions, right? Where many people think self-management is just about freedom and autonomy. And people can just do whatever they want. But again, similar to structure, where in more self-managed organizations, I think there's more structure and more explicit structure. I think there's also often more accountability and responsibility that comes with that freedom, which is also important to make it fun, right?
And that's also sometimes a tough discussion, because people also feel that you take a bit away of the autonomy when you start pushing on results, but you got to balance them out.
Yeah.
It works both ways.
Yeah. And is that also, you mentioned the OKRs and KPIs to put that more into it. Is that scoreboard that I mentioned to really show people, okay, how are we performing as an organization and how are the teams doing?
Yeah, so well, we also work a lot with HubSpot, which is our main platform around everything we do in terms of business. But so we use that a lot, but you can link through, of course. But I think now it's really trying to get those, not only your team and your organizational performance, and we don't call them actually key performance indicators, we call them kept promise indicators. So you promise something you are going to deliver for the business. So it's a bit different than the traditional KPIs. So just to make it transparent and get those discussions going. And it helps us. We started using scaling up as a methodology to build our business. And it helps us to build things like OKRs, goals, and to put them there where you have your discussions, which is in our case, Talkspirit, because the meetings are in there. So you open them up in the meetings as well.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Then, Nicolas,
you're welcome.
Over to you.
Yeah, over to me. I think my name is Nicolas Longin. I'm Belgian. I have quite an international career behind me. I'm now currently working in our headquarters from our company in Austria. To understand what this topic means for me, we have to go back a little bit in the past. So I'm working for Wells Profile. We are a very traditional company in the sense that we are working in the steel industry, acting globally with around 3,000 people. So we are quite a big company, and it was quite a challenge to start this entire process for ourselves. Why did we start it? 7 years ago, time goes by quite fast. I started together with my CEO. CEO is 11th generation in this company. The company is around since 365 years. Can you imagine? and 11th generation. And together we started 7 years ago. We came to the conclusion we have a problem as a company. I came from a very hierarchical pharmaceutical company where everything was really well organized. And I came in a company where I felt that people were not ready to take some initiatives because the 10th generation and the 9th generation of the owners were very, very patriarchal company where people where they decided everything for everyone in the company. And 7 years ago, we felt that the market was changing. We felt we had to invest to become more global company. We felt a lot of trouble coming out to us. And looking each other in the eye, the CEO and myself, we said we have to change something dramatically because we have an organization that is not ready to change. At the time, we talked about the VUCA world where we were in 2017, 2018. People were a little bit laughing around since Corona. Everyone knows that the VUCA world is there and real. And working in traditional companies, and especially Wells Profile at the time, was unable to change fast enough to tackle all the challenges we had. And at that time, we started thinking, what can we do? How can we transform this company? And since that moment, for the last 7 years, we have been in a transformational process, coming from this really patriarchal, hierarchical company to a role-based company based on the principles of the holacracy. Yeah, and this is helping us quite a lot. So what are my 3 learnings was the question. I think first learning from myself is it starts from the top. Yeah. The first question where we worked at least a year about was myself and the CEO. We were discussing, do we really want that? Why is that? In a traditional company, being a C-level is a really nice place to be. Yeah, you can say well, whatever you want, people will follow you because you can do what you want because you're the CEO, yeah, or the CFO in my sense. And we were clear that going to a self-managed company means losing some power on our side, yeah, because you're not anymore the CFO and you decide everything. You're part of the organization. You take the roles that you can do very well, but it means as well that you must be really ready to do so. So this was the first thing. Are you really ready as a C-level person to really take this challenge and knowing what it means? It was my first learning. Second learning, as a finance guy, I said, Naya, what will it take? What is the ROE on it? And so on. And on the way, we stopped talking about that. We are convinced this is the right way for doing that. We're investing quite a lot of money to really come into this direction. And at the time, I thought it will take 3, 4, 5 years to be where we want to be. My learning today is, no, it is not a project that you can do in 3 years, in 5 years. It's really a journey that will never be finished. Yeah. So we are quite far already in our development, but we see such opportunities still around the world. In our case, in the US, how can we bring these ideas in the US? A quite new challenge for us, but we see that we are going to continue our transformation for the next year. So it's not a project, it's really a journey that will take quite a long time. Yeah, and the third thing that we learned is coming from an history of 365 years. It is impossible to come and to tell people, this is the way we are going to organize ourselves. So what is really important is to work together with the people. Yeah, have the principles in mind. What is important for you? Transparency, we heard accountability, we heard changeability from organization perspective. We learned that. But we need to work together with our employees, with our colleagues to really develop the model that we use. So we are never saying we are doing holacracy. We are saying we are doing the Wells operating system, the system that is helping us. So together with them, we are developing, and that's why it takes quite a lot of time because you need to find the right way for yourself. I'm afraid that there is no rule book who's saying that's the way for you and just copy paste it will work. I'm quite convinced, and that's my third learning, really, that you need to develop it and to adapt it to the company you have, and you can only do that in a strong collaborations with your people. Yeah, so and that's where we are today. After 7 years of transformation, we are role-based, fully supported by Talkspirit. Yeah, so we are as well very happy customers of Talkspirit. Why is that? Because it supports us in our principles, in our principle of transparency, of accountability, of changing the organization in a really fast way when we need to do so. And this system is really there to make the things real. Yeah? So it has been an exciting journey, and I'm looking forward to the next years where the journey will continue in our side.
And do you already regret that decision from 7 years ago, but it would be nice to let go of some of that power?
Not a second, not a second. Why is that? We are incredibly successful as a company. We have been doing things in the last years, growing internationally. We have seen people developing in a way that I really could not have imagined before. So it's so nice to come to the company and see what all has happened over the last years. And I'm convinced more than ever that this is only be possible close to the way that we are dealing with our company today. Yeah. And of course, some days I'm tired and I'm thinking, boy, there are for sure other ways that are easier, because it is it's really work to continue and to develop in this way. But at the end of the day, I'm so happy and I'm so proud of our company. That's not one day I've been doubting really that we are not on the right way.
Great, thanks for sharing. And I love the lessons. Letting go of that power, and the journey never stops, and it has to be custom. It cannot just be taken off the shelf and implemented in any company.
Yeah.
Great. One more question to you, Nicolas, before we go into Christina. She's going to talk more about Talkspirit. So I want to avoid Talkspirit for 1 second. What is other technology that you use to self-manage in such a big company that you really feel, okay, we really need this tool? And maybe it's not as important to, you can name the brand, of course, but I mean, also just what is kind of the thing it does that you really need in a company of your size?
Yeah, I think I would call it human tech. Yeah. So for us, Spirit or Talkspirit is really the backbone of our transformation. So everything is there. It's a really, as I think René said, it's the tool that I open the first in the morning and that I close the last at night. Yeah, because it's really, you can see your organization, you can see your KPIs, you can see who is working where and so on. So it's really, really, really important from a technology point of view. The human tech is even more important, I think. The human tech is exactly what you showed on the slide in a very, very high level way, in the way, how do people work together? How do we train people that they are able to have these discussions about what is going on, or when issues arise? It's about how to train people to understand what are the purpose, what do we need to do to bring the purpose to reality, and so on. So I think that tech is really important, no doubt about it. I would never have started it without having the tech, but I think all the work that we're doing with people to be able to come in this company, in this mindset, is even more important. So let's call it human tech.
Great, thanks for adding. Okay, thanks a lot for sharing your insights so far. We'll dive deeper in a bit, but now let's go to Christina to talk a little bit more about the technology that she is using to also make self-management work.
Thanks a lot, Pim, and thanks a lot, everyone, for sharing these very valuable insights. I'm super happy today to represent the Talkspirit team. We couldn't fit everybody in one window, so somebody had to do it. Here I am. And let me start with one question, one of the most probably asked questions in the past few years, which is, do you see my screen? Yes, and thank you so much. We've talked about Talkspirit, and I bet you are wondering, oh, does Talkspirit only have very happy customers, as we heard? Well, just like any other company, I think there's always room for improvement, so just to keep it real. But for those of you who do not know Talkspirit, we are a leading European tech company, especially in the space of shared governance and self-management. And we are very passionate about empowering organizations and teams to move from purpose to impact effectively. Now, what does it mean? As Pim said, it's pretty simple, like we just want you to step into the future and operate at your fullest potential. And when we talk about purpose, it's really interesting because just like self-management, there's a lot of misconceptions around purpose-driven companies. Whether we like it or not, any organization comes into being with a purpose, whether it's declared or not. There's other companies who are able to articulate and also deliver very well on the purpose, and others who actually see purpose as a shiny statement they do during a one-day workshop with a team, and then it is put somewhere on the hallway, looks really nice, it's really impressive, and it makes for a great press statement every now and then. Well, this is not how we think about purpose and what needs to be done. And we heard it from Nicolas, and we heard it also from Sophie. We heard it. I mean, the world is really changing faster than organizations. And if you're living on planet Earth, everybody knows today, right? So resilience is no longer an option, it is a necessity. And our theory of change is that collective intelligence can beat this complexity and uncertainty. So having autonomous responsible, dedicated people who come together around a well-defined purpose and making it happen in a very clear way is key to building the world we would all like to live in. So what we see is that to move from a claim of impact, to move from a claim of purpose to an actual impact, to actually showing the world, okay, if this is our purpose, look, this is what we've done. Any organization needs to communicate, collaborate, and to govern itself effectively. And this is where we are super happy with all the experience we've gathered in the past 20 years to have enabled thousands of teams and organizations to work better and in modern ways. So you can look at us as an operating system that will allow you to bring absolute clarity, again, on what is it that you're aiming to do, how you're doing it, and how you can organize yourself in the best possible way to make it happen. You don't have to fear when you hear shared governance, self-management. One may have the impression that you need to go full in, but we heard it already from Catalina, from Sophie, René, and Nicolas today, and also from Pim. You don't have to. You can start somewhere and then take it step by step. You don't have to go full in. And also what is important is clarity. So this is where what we see with the organizations we support is that it really needs alignment and it needs a decision on how do we govern themselves, how do we communicate, and how we collaborate together as a team. There is no right or wrong. You can be a hybrid of different methods, methodologies. We heard Nicolas, we heard René also mentioning, for example, holacracy. You do not have to be committed to one specific methodology. What you need is, first of all, a clear vision and a mission. And also, I would say what you need is also facilitation, because engaging in such a process of deep transformation, René said it really well, it is not for everybody. And it's good to be accompanied by somebody who can actually support you along the way. And what we see is that technology comes afterwards. It actually comes in order for you to be able to put that crystal clear view on all layers of the organization. Be it the structure, so how do we govern ourselves? How do we actually work with each other? Which agreements do we have? And then publish them and make sure that they are updated, having clarity on roles and how they work together. So moving from this idea of hierarchy of titles to an interdependency of roles, but all this created based on the purpose and the impact, the expected impact that you would want to have. And then once we know how we organize ourselves as a group, then we need to get things done. And this is where it's really about setting goals, setting KPIs. I really loved what René said in terms of kept promises. It goes back to the agreements you make with other team members and having a really agile way of delivering on that kind of work, on projects. And I'm sure that everybody, when hearing meetings, has some chills in their back, because meetings have been one of the most difficult things to tackle in any organizations. You know, like everybody has the impression we meet for too long, those meetings are not effective, we are wasting a lot of time. Some companies actually started putting a price on meetings by calculating how much does it cost for 20 people to attend a meeting. So it's a very complex subject, and we see that using our technology and also our templates and predefined flows, companies gain a lot of time. They also are supported with automated reports, and then everything is tracked. So everything and everybody is then accountable. And then it goes on and on when it comes to collaboration, when it comes to communication. This is where, as we all know, the question, where did I save that? Where do I find this? Where is this? Should not be a topic anymore, because it's 2025 and we can do much better. So having a layer that allows you to have clarity, absolute clarity on what is it that we are doing here, why did we gather under this umbrella of the organization, how do we organize ourselves? And again, it's a decision. You can go full, for example, holacracy or sociocracy mode. You can go halfway. It is really up to you to decide how, but needs to be documented, and then it needs to have the mechanisms in place. And this is where technology really helps to anchor those new behaviors, those mechanisms. And then it's actually clear and very transparent to everybody. What is happening? How are we working? And just to give you a very brief overview on how it actually looks like, you heard also PIM, you saw the framework, and it's really checking all the boxes in the framework PIM shared before. This is exactly what our operating system does. So going from purpose, clarity on structure, on how do we aim to go towards a certain impact through objectives, through projects, how do we run meetings, and ensuring that everything is very well documented. And this is where it's really, I would say, the magic happens. Because when every single role in the company, in the organization is clearly defined, it has accountabilities, it's becoming easier to collaborate. And then, of course, it is reducing also tensions and also potential conflicts. And then you have transparency also on how much time do you spend. You can have several roles inside an organization. This is the case for many people. And it's all becoming very easy to track, very transparent to everybody. And for example, you can have one role that is filled by several people as well. So if I would like, for example, to know who at Talkspirit is handling customer success, I'm going to zoom in the role, and right away I can see exactly who are the people behind, what are they doing, what is the purpose, which projects are they working on, what is the progress, how do they run meetings, and what is the actual outcome, and how is everything we do feeding back to our purpose and our goals. Really a beautiful visual of how to have a clear view on progress in projects. And I think that any C-level struggled quite a lot when it comes to digging deeper, especially if you have a larger organization, and understanding what is happening in different teams, where are they? You have to ask a lot of times sometimes. So having a clear view whenever you need it, and you can then really zoom in or zoom out, is very practical. And I'm not going to go too much into agile ways of working, but it helps a lot to embrace them and to know how to run a project really fast and effective. I would say in terms of the meetings, stressing the importance of these automated reports being created in a way that then also assigns people to what needs to be done. So it's not just a report that is generated and is going to sit somewhere. It's, again, linking to the full picture. And when it comes to communication and the collaboration within team members, there, with the platform we have, there's the possibility to have different chats based on topics. You can have one-on-ones with people. So this is really very practical for daily operations, because as we all know, sometimes you just need to ask somebody quickly a question you're not sure, and it feels really natural to reach out. Or you have an important event coming, and then you gather the people that are going to be part of it, and you're just creating a separate thread. And then you have with it all necessary documentation, the library, and basically the knowledge that is needed on a daily basis for the team. As you've heard already from our panelists today, we are a provider of, we would call it business vitality. We are the spark that ignites the potential in organizations since 2004, present in different countries, mainly in Europe. We have a very strong network of partners as well. And I would like to stress also the fact that the organizations we support are very diverse. We heard already today a few examples from smaller to bigger teams, but we also have organizations who operate in highly regulated environments, for example, banks or pharma. And this is where certain topics become very critical. So when we talk about transparency, this may scare companies who are public or they operate in highly regulated environments. And what we see is basically there as well, it is a decision to be taken. What does it mean, transparency? Which layers of transparency to whom? Which role needs certain information? So all this needs to be decided and it's doable. So we actually see banks and pharma companies taking concrete steps towards being and working with autonomous teams, and it is possible. So there again, don't think it's all or nothing. It's always layers. And it's really important to get the support needed so that you're not reinventing the wheel, so to speak. In our network of partners, we have in every country where we are operating facilitators and coaches who have a lot of experience with organizational transformation, organizational design, and they can be of great help. We do not have time today to do an actual live demo, so I would invite you, in case you're interested, to visit our website, talkspirit.com. You can definitely request a demo, and we would be very happy to actually customize it for you by understanding which industry, which field you're operating in, what is the size of your team, what are you looking at, what is your level of knowledge when it comes to self-management. So please don't hesitate to request a demo and we will get back to you. And also on the website, you'll find many different cases and examples of companies who are pioneers, who are well advanced and maybe of interest to you. And because this is a very special event today with Corporate Rebels, and this is something that we would like to offer as well to the community, we thought that in case some of you, the participants, some of you CEOs, CFOs, CHROs, feel like, oh, I really want to, I would love to, but I'm not really sure. I would need some insights from my industry. I would need to talk maybe to another CEO. What we offer today to the participants of this LinkedIn Live event are 5 meetings with Philippe Pinault, the co-founder and CEO of Talkspirit, and myself, where we will actually take a look at what you need, take a look at what you're concerned of what you need in terms of getting things started down the route of self-management, and also introduce you to our network of pioneers. So it's going to be a first come, first serve principle here, just to make it very clear. In terms of decision making, please email me. Christina.reason@talkspirit.com, and the 5 first requests will have the possibility to have this one-on-one meeting with us. And with this, I would also like to invite you to follow us on LinkedIn, just to keep the pace with what is happening in terms of our network, our organizations, and let's ignite potential together. I think really great times are ahead of us in terms of what can be done when it comes to modern work. And it is an absolute pleasure to work alongside people like Pim, Nicola, René, Sophie, Catalina, and many, many others. We gather around the same purpose, and we really hope that we can transform the world of work for the better. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks for showing. Also, always love that, showing visually what it can do to really practically give people an idea. Okay, that's what the the tool can actually help us to do. And I would like one thing that you said, especially that it doesn't create self-management. I think no tool will ever do. It just enables it. And I think this is also another one of those misconceptions. People are looking for a tool to do it for them. But as Nicolas said very well, this is a lot of human tech that you need to work on as well. And the other tech is just there to support it. But that development needs to happen. And it's not an easy journey, but it is a very rewarding one, I would say. Great, then. So a couple more minutes to dive into a couple of insights from the panel here. So one very simple question. Let's say you would be back in a very traditional company tomorrow, and you can only pick one feature that technology, one feature of a technology you can implement to support you towards self-management. What would you pick? Sophie, starting with you.
Oh, that's quite difficult. For starting, I would never go back to the past.
Yeah, I know. Not a fun question, sorry.
That's quite clear. For me, I really like what Nicolas said about the human tech. I'm very sorry, but that's for me very, very important and key to have a successful transformation. I really like the transparency and to really know what are the boundaries, what are the purpose. So yeah, I have really difficulties to choose, to be honest. For me, it's very clear. I'm not going back.
Love the conviction. Okay, anybody else? Catalina, Nicolas, René, one feature you could pick to support a traditional company to self-management.
I can go next, and I think you'll get this reaction from all of us. We don't want to go back to traditional companies. So I think I would start with role mapping. I think that's a really important first step when you're in a traditional company, to bring that clarity around roles and for everyone to see each other's roles and to see how they actually look like in that moment in time, and now not the job descriptions. And hopefully after doing that first step, there would be possibilities to do more. So only role mapping won't be enough, but I would start with that.
Great, thanks. René.
Thank you.
From my
Yeah,
side,
I was to say the same thing. My first one would be definitely role mapping, and to see what the structure of the organization looks like, and to be able to play with that fairly easy. You need your meetings, of course, and your decision-making process with it, your human tech, but to see what the organization looks like, what the purpose of each role is, what the responsibilities are, where they're situated, and what roles people have, that's just very valuable to open discussions about improving and optimizing your own organization. So I would go with Catalina as well.
Okay, got it. Roles as well, Nicolas?
I think that the question is very difficult because all the elements enforce each other. So you cannot take one element and then say, let's just do this. That doesn't work. Yeah, you can make roles, but if you just stop at roles, it will not help. Anyway, just to try to answer your question, I would take meetings. Yeah, why? I've been spending so many hours of my life in meetings where I think, what does that bring? Nothing. Yeah. And now we have, based on a role definition, on a purpose definition, on a very clear tool as well in Talkspirit, we make sync meetings. In 1 hour, we achieve what would have taken many hours without much frustration, because people tell them what they need to tell and not more, and so on. So meetings is making my daily life much more efficient and enjoyable. So I will go for meetings.
Great. I think that's music to a lot of people's ears, reducing the meetings and making them more effective and efficient. Cool. So thanks a lot. We are already out of time. We could have easily continued the conversation because I think there's so much to explore in this, but 100% sure we will one way or another. If people want to learn more, I saw a lot of questions coming in that have nothing to do with our topic of today, but are still very interesting. So can self-management work in healthcare? Can it work in traditional industries like aerospace? All these kinds of questions. I urge you to subscribe to the Corporate Rebels newsletter, because we share on a weekly basis case studies, examples, practices, everything related to these progressive ways of working. So you definitely want to go there, and we have lots of stuff to share on that. And then if you want to learn more about Talkspirit itself, reach out to Christina. She said be quick to get those 5 meeting spots if they are not already taken. Other than that, it's a great way to support your journey towards self-management. And hopefully today, besides showing what Talkspirit can do, we've also given you some insights into what the pioneering companies are doing to actually create better workplaces where people are thriving, and also businesses get towards better success and more success. The two go hand in hand. There's a lot of pitfalls. Some of them we talked about today. There's a lot of basics you need to get into place, the roles that were mentioned, the meetings, and doing them differently. So it's not an easy journey, but it's a very rewarding one. I think the story of René with trying it, then ditching it, and then coming back to it is a very powerful story that and showing that it is not easy, but that if you've tried it, you still want to get there and want to do it a little bit better tomorrow. It's a journey that never ends. Also echoing what Nicolas said. So, but it is important to start it. We've seen it all around the world in all kinds of companies. The power of these more progressive, less hierarchical, less bureaucratic ways of working is immense. You just need to give it a try and start experimenting with it, so you can also experience the benefits yourself. Because once you try it, as everybody has said, you probably won't want to go back. Thanks a lot for your time, especially thanks to the participants, Catalina, René, Sophie, and Nicolas, for sharing your story. Christina for elaborating a little bit more on the tech Talkspirit that you guys have. Thanks a lot for everyone being here, for participating, for watching this, and for your questions. And we hope to see you soon somewhere on Corporate Rebels LinkedIn or on our community platform. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.